Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing my January wrap-up video. So I'm just going to be talking about all the books that I read this month. I read some really great books and I'm going to show them to you. These are all the books that I read this month. I can actually hold them in one hand, which is kind of awesome. So I read 6 books this month. One of them is not here right now, but I'll be talking about it, so don't worry, I won't forget. Stephen King? I'll start with Stephen King. Everything's Eventual by Stephen King. Basically, this is a book composed of 14 short stories, and oh my gosh, some of these stories were really creepy. Overall, this book was amazing. All the stories were so interesting, and man, I really enjoyed it. And they were actually scary. Like some of Stephen King's books aren't really scary. Like people have this idea that it's all horror, but it's really not all scary. Some of it's more like dramatic, or I don't know, but these were actually scary, and I like that kind of literature, so it was really good. If you want a little bit of a feel for some of the stories that are in this book, the very first story is about this guy who wakes up in an autopsy room, and basically everyone thinks he's dead, but he's not dead. His body is just in this paralysis, so it's really terrifying because they're about to like cut open his skull. So that was like the first story. Was really intense. All these stories are pretty much equally as scary, some more than others, but overall it was just a really great book. 1984 by George Orwell. I hadn't read it before, but I finally did in the beginning of this month. It was one of the very first books I read, and I really did enjoy it. This was my first George Orwell book, and it was really good. I thought some of the themes that he touched on in this book are really significant and apply to today's society and the problems that we're facing with. So it was a really interesting type of dystopian book. This world is controlled by this organization called Big Brother. They've got thought police, which read your thoughts, and you can get arrested for even thinking a negative thing about the government. And it's just this really controlling, oppressive society where you can't even think freely. It was really good and really important. It's sort of like a warning about what could happen in the future, and obviously we're past 1984, and although we don't have this kind of society specifically, there are still lots of problems. The warnings that George Orwell talks about in this book can still apply to us today, so I think it's a really good read. Black Boy by Richard Wright. This is a book I had to read for school, but I'm putting it in here because I absolutely loved it. I honestly didn't read the whole thing because I only had to read part 1 of it, but part 1 is the majority of the book. So I read almost all of it. I think sometime in the future I'm going to finish it up, but I just wanted to talk about it real quick. This is an autobiography. It talks about his life growing up during the Jim Crow era, his experience with being black and facing the racial oppression, and how that affects his life and experiences and his opportunity. I love the writing style. There were some parts that were really lyrical, which made it enjoyable even though it was such a dark subject. So if you're interested in learning about racism, then I highly recommend this book. I don't know if some schools require you to read it, if it's part of your curriculum. It's part of mine. Just real quick, this edition is beautiful. What's that called when the pages are uneven? I don't remember. I don't know, it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful book, and it was beautifully written too, so it was great. It was great. It didn't feel like a chore to read at all, which is good because school books can feel that way. Fragile Things by Neil Gaiman. Don't actually have this book with me right now, my friend's borrowing it. Fragile Things is a collection of short stories, all written by Neil Gaiman. It's all pretty much fantasy stories. I mean, Neil Gaiman, he never disappoints, but some of these stories were amazing. There was a Sherlock-based story, like the very first story in there is based on Sherlock. There's a Matrix-themed story in there, which was really cool. And not my favorite Neil Gaiman book, to be honest. I liked it, but I like his full stories more, I think. But his short stories are good too, so yeah. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom. I just did a review on this book, so I don't really want to go into that much detail on it. If you want to find out more information, then I will leave a link to my review below, and you can see my brief synopsis in the beginning of the video, and then leave if you haven't read the book, because then there's spoilers in it. So yeah. Hollow City by Ransom, the sequel to Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I'm also posting a review of this book. I don't know if it'll be before or after this video, but I'll be reviewing this, so I'm not going to say that much about it. And plus, it's a sequel to the other one, so can't really talk about it without spoiling it. But all I will say is, oh my god, this was amazing. Amazing. Like, oh, so good. It was so good. That has been all the books that I read this month. Thanks for watching. Bye!